Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Welcome to the Think Factory's Workplace Podcast, powered by OGC Solutions, the podcast where we explore the ever-evolving landscape of workplace dynamics. My name is Alka Bahal. I'm a partner with Outside General Counsel Solutions and chair of our Corporate Immigration Services Group. I'm your host today, and I'm very pleased to have with me here today Christina Armentano, Chief Operating Officer at Paraco Gas. Welcome to the podcast, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me today. Just thrilled to be on.
Brilliant. So let's start off by maybe having you tell our listeners a little bit about Paraco Gas and what you do there.
More than happy to. So Paraco Gas is a family-owned and operated propane distribution company based out of Rye Brook, New York. We've been in business since 1968, and we're currently in our third generation of leadership. And most folks don't know about propane, but propane is a wonderful energy source that really creates these amazing moments, both for residential customers as well as commercial businesses. And for my role specifically, I am one of the owners of the organization, and I am also our Chief Operating Officer.
That's awesome. Tell me, what are the top 5 reasons as to why propane is great?
Oh my goodness. How do I even begin? So, and my love for propane is quite vast. So let's talk about its portability, right? So in the rural areas, when you do not have accessibility to natural gas and to the pipelines, this is a wonderful fuel that can be incredibly helpful to these areas, powering really off the grid locations. Propane is also an excellent source for backup power. We hear lots of things right now about storms and power outages and the concerns that are out there about the electric grid. Propane is very much this unsung hero when it comes to being there as an emergency supply fuel, generating power for businesses and homes and hospitals. Oftentimes when we think of propane, especially folks that live in cities, they think about the small barbecue cylinders, and a way in which propane creates these wonderful outdoor experiences like barbecuing, patio lights, outdoor heating, really creating those wonderful moments. And of course, it is a green fuel, and it is also something that has helped over time reduce the overall carbon footprint.
That's really amazing. So many things that I never really even thought of.
And it's interesting because you hear propane, again, people oftentimes think about the grill and they don't realize what it actually is powering and the uniqueness behind it. One other fun fact about propane, and there are many, is even when you look at some of these EV electrical charging stations that are out there for electric cars, many of those stations, the backup power that you're actually seeing, that is propane. So very versatile, lots of uses, everything from, as I said, outdoor heating to drying crops. It is really an array of usability.
Incredible. So as part of a multi-generational family-owned company, how do you balance legacy with modern business practices?
Wonderful question. So in our family business today, I have the pleasure of working not only closely with my father, who is our current CEO, as well as my brother, who just recently joined our organization as our fleet manager. And I think where it comes to is always making sure that there is a respect for the path that has gotten here over time. So looking back at the history and all of the hard work, dedication that has gotten us to where we are, and honoring that and its legacy, while at the same time, as an organization, being open to evolution, new ideas, new thoughts, new generations of ways of doing things, but never losing sight of all the wonderful things that got us to where we are today.
Brilliant. Do you find it challenging, earning respect, being valued, working within family?
You know, I have always had the concept of trying to look at myself as an individual employee and putting my role as a shareholder and business owner and family member off to the side. And what I mean by that is, if I can show up every day as the best version of myself and being better than I was the day before, and really believing as a member of the Paraco team that I am adding value, then truly the respect of others will come in time. In the same vein, as much as I like to divide those two groups into two different components, I've always been a big believer that as a member of a family business, whether it is Paraco or any other organization, you need to be giving 110% of your time to that business. And that is incredibly important. I will say my experience being outside of the family business for almost 10 years also served me very well as I made my transition into this family structure.
Sounds like you've really struck a very nice balance there. Kudos on that. You've led Paraco through M&A, operational integration, and technology adoption. What have been the most challenging and most rewarding aspects of that journey?
So I would say, through my experience with the organization and being on board since 2013, I can easily say that there is a constant change of different things that will come up and that will be part of our time period. And what I mean by that is not every day is the same. There's new challenges, new things that really have come to the surface. And what I have been incredibly proud of, and incredibly proud of the team, is we've gone through these different business cycles. I mean, everything since the financial challenges of 2008 to COVID, to storms, to polar vortexes, you name it. We've seen just a series of different crises that many businesses had to journey and go through. And what I'm incredibly proud of is, as an organization, we have rolled up our sleeves, jumped in, and really, as a team and as a group, been able not only to make it through these very challenging times, but to also learn from them and to become stronger as an organization.
And you've always said that post-acquisition integration is where the real work begins. What are the biggest challenges in retaining culture and people post-close?
Yeah, so we have been a very acquisition-driven organization throughout our history. We have completed now almost 60 acquisitions to date, many of which have happened over the last 20 years. And to your question, how do you continue to keep the morale, keep the legacy of these businesses that we're acquiring? I think part of it is approaching it through a lens of learning, where day one, we're not looking to make a significant change within the organization, but more what has made this company that we have acquired successful? What makes it tick? What is unique about the geographic footprint that they operate in? What is unique about the customers that they have? So truly understanding these companies before making any adjustments to their business plan or business infrastructure has helped us tremendously post-acquisition integration.
That's an excellent viewpoint. Many times post-acquisition, the focus is all on absorbing the acquired entity rather than highlighting what has made them successful and a great addition to the new organization.
I even to piggyback off of that as well, although we are one of the largest privately held propane companies in the Northeast, I always believe when we go through these acquisitions, we need to uncover the nuggets of what that company is doing and doing incredibly well. And how do we take those learnings, even though some of these companies may be very small, mom and pop, 1 or 2 employee companies, how do we take some of their success and now incorporate it not at just that location, but really throughout our organization? So it's not only learning about the business, but learning about their best practices. What are they doing or have done better than Paraco? And how do we use that to become a stronger business, putting our own egos off to the side?
That is such an important piece of the integration to keep in mind. That's amazing. So you led a number of acquisitions, and of course, Paraco has this very long history of acquisitions. Based on your experience, what would you say are the biggest acquisition mistakes to avoid?
Okay, biggest acquisition mistakes to avoid. I would say number one, making sure the mistake would be acquiring in an area in which you really do not have a strong understanding of its territory, its people, and its makeup. When you're going through the acquisition process, you need to do a very thorough due diligence process to make sure that this business will be set up for success. The number 2 mistake is, although many of us, including Paraco, want to make sure that we develop solid synergies so we get a strong return on our investment, making sure that you don't move so quickly through that integration process to get those financial gains that in fact it ends up impacting the customer experience, and then you lose customers over time. I would say the third mistake would be is many companies spend a lot of time on, as I just mentioned, the financials. Again, critical piece, but taking a step back and understanding the area from a community service perspective. We want to make sure, and many companies need to make sure, if they are going to be successful in an area, they need to be part of that infrastructure and understanding how they can best serve that community outside of just the propane service, but giving back is something that I think often gets as a miss during these acquisitions.
Mm-hmm. Very true, very true. And how do you foster communication among teams, especially in the scenario where we're integrating a new organization?
Yep. So part of it is the approach you would take for change management within any organization. And communication has to be constant, has to be frequent, and you really have to meet your employees where they are. And what I mean by that is, again, knowing the employees that you are acquiring, Is this a group that is used to getting text messages for information, used to in-person conversations, used to emails? Really understand what that communication has been for this group, and then use that as a way to get in front of them constantly with similar messages of support. Because going through an acquisition, especially sitting on the other side as an employee, that's a lot of change. It's a very different experience, and you want to make sure that the communication is incredibly strong, as there may be new ways of doing things, new processes, a new leadership team. Just constant communication, all different modes, in order to keep them educated, up to speed.
Mm. And now that you have overseen or been part of, at least in some degree or another, a vast number of acquisitions, do you feel like you have a repeatable playbook that you can implement, or do you feel like really every acquisition is its own unique animal?
I'll say a little bit of both. Okay,
Mhm.
so we absolutely have a very solid playbook that we use, whether it is a very large acquisition or a very small acquisition, because believe it or not, no matter what the size is, it usually is a very similar amount of work for our key team. So very solid playbook when we go through our initial phase and due diligence, very, very similar when we go through our transition process. But I will say every single acquisition we have done is incredibly unique. And the reason for that is you're dealing with people. You're dealing with multi-generational businesses many times, lots of history, lots of legacy, lots of knowledge, and treating these acquisition opportunities very much as the unique and specialness that they each bring to the table is incredibly important when we approach it and tailor that playbook to these different deals.
Excellent. Now, you're very clearly passionate about building high performance teams. What is your philosophy on talent development and team culture?
So coming from a recruitment background, because that was my career prior to being part of Paraco, I do believe that making sure you get the right people on the bus is so important to an organization. So the recruitment and talent pipeline is essential to an overall organization. But part of it is not only bringing in the right people and having the right structure, it is also making sure that you have the right processes in place to set those individuals up for overall success. So continuing to train, to coach, to mentor, and also to take a step back. And you may have within your organization someone who is very talented, but just is on the wrong seat on the bus. So I believe it's incredibly important for all organizations to always put talent first, but through the lens of the employee experience.
Very nice. And how do you recommend effectuating that? What are some of the tools in your arsenal as a leader you use to keep in touch and monitor the progress of your team?
Yep. So first, it starts with the first 90 days. Onboarding of any role is so essential to creating a strong framework for success. So with our organization, we have a very dedicated team of also field personnel, drivers, technicians, yard professionals. We also have customer service agents. And then, of course, we have our corporate team that supports that group as well. But number one, making sure that those first 90 days, they are getting the tools and the learning and the understanding to set them up for success. Number two, making sure that you are creating a culture in which you have team members that feel very comfortable vocalizing their experiences. New employees come to the table with lots of different experiences outside of Paraco. We look for individuals at all different roles to make sure that they come in and they are able to say and look at things through a very clear lens and make recommendations on how the organization can improve over time and when they may see some challenges as well. Number 3, I think it's incredibly important to have constant communication with your manager and provide feedback both ways. Managers need to make sure that they are directing and giving recommendations and advice for the team as a whole.
And that feeds directly into the next topic I wanted to explore with you. How do you describe the culture at Paraco, and what role do you think it plays in employee satisfaction?
Yep. So as an organization, we are a very fast-paced, moving organization. We have a team of employees that truly care about our customers and continuing to move the organization forward. As a team, we do have a very vocal group of individuals, especially within our leadership team, that are open to giving suggestions, providing feedback, and also pushback when needed. Because of our acquisition history and because we have been in this constant stage, I would say, of change many times, we are also incredibly good at being reactive as an organization. And that reactive nature has helped us to the conversation we had earlier when there has been crises, when there has been issues, being able to gel and come together and collaborate as a group has also been part of our core culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very nice. What would you say are 3 key traits that you believe are essential for effective leadership in the workplace today?
I would say number 1 is being resilient in nature. So knowing that the road ahead is never going to be straight. It's going to be bumpy, it could be rocky, and knowing that you need to take a step back, see what's going on, and course correct as needed. Number 2 leadership trait is really being able to be what I would call carefrontational. That is not a Christina word; it is a Vistage word that I've taken and stolen. But carefrontational is really, to me, the ability to have these very direct conversations, but in a caring and professional way, in order to, again, get everybody on the same page and make sure you're moving in the right direction and being comfortable with others having that carefrontational conversation with you as well. The last trait that I think is critical for a leader is having that entrepreneurial mindset. No matter what size of an organization, large, small, publicly traded, you never want to lose sight of innovation, development, ways in which you can do things creatively and differently to propel the organization forward.
Interesting. I love that, carefrontational, and I will definitely be stealing that.
You should.
Just building off of something you said there, how do you cultivate innovation and agility within a traditional industry like propane, as well as in what we'll say are the confines of a family business?
I think that the family business, I do not see that as constricting in any way. I see now that we have, between myself, my father, and now my younger brother, multiple generations in a business. So being able to look at things different and innovatively is been something that has been part of really our core success. But what I would say is just be open to very different ideas. Create a sense and a platform where people can throw ideas out. They can brainstorm without fear of, oh, wow, that's a crazy thought. Sometimes those crazy out there thoughts are the ones that really help to strengthen a business over time. So just being open to doing things differently is what I think can help propel a business forward and to be innovative.
That's a great way to put it. But turning to you on a more personal level, you're a CEO, a mom, a daughter, and a partner, and probably dealing with all of these different roles simultaneously on a daily basis. How do you lead effectively while managing a personal life?
Great question. And there are definitely days where I feel like I am doing wonderful with the balance. I'll use the word balance, even though I have my own thoughts of that, and then there's some days like, yeah, I got this. It's working out great. I would say that for myself and what is on my plate is being hyper organized is really the name of the game. And I've tried very hard over, my career to try to get systems in place that help me do things smarter and faster and make things a bit easier and not harder. Time is our most precious resource, whether that is time at business or whether that is time with our family or our friends. And if I can continue to do things and manage that time, I feel like I'm really setting myself up again for success. The other part of this balance is trying to be in life's moments. So whether that is on a conference call, whether that is at a back to school event, trying more to be in the moment than multitasking and doing many things at once, but doing one thing really good for that hour has been one of the hardest things for me. I think I'm still learning that, but that's the path that I've been going down, and it's been working well, but it's been a trial of different things over my career journey.
I can imagine. I think that's a fantastic insight to be in the moment. A lot of people will resonate with that, I think. So, kind of following in that vein, you are really earning recognition as a rising leader in the propane space. You've clearly had this significant track record in a variety of positions, not least of which being the CEO of a major, propane organization. What advice would you give to other women who are aiming for executive leadership roles, especially in industries that would be normally or historically considered male dominated?
Sure. I will give the same advice that I will to up and coming women as I will to men. The most important thing is you need to first focus on yourself and focus on your skills. You need to understand what are you good at, what do you accelerate at, and where are your areas of opportunity and your areas of development. And knowing that your journey through your career is that. It is a journey. You are going to have opportunities that will help advance you, but you're also going to have disappointments, roadblocks, and challenges. And understanding that is the most important part of your learning is when you fail. I also think the most important thing you can do is really make sure that you yourself are adding value. And although it's important to care about your peers and your leader and your boss and the company, the first person that you really have to prove something to is yourself. And if you can do that, everything else will naturally fall into place.
Well, that's very good advice. I will take it to heart. So now looking to the future, where do you see the future of propane going? You know, one of the biggest, obviously, disruptors of all industries is AI. A lot of talk about it, a lot of things that work and don't work. Do you think that's going to play a factor in your future?
I think AI is going to play a factor in all industries, including the propane industry. And, when you start to look at the power of AI, it is pretty phenomenal. And if there is a way that it can be harnessed to help businesses grow, become more efficient, help the employee experience, help the customer experience. That is something that within our organization, Paraco, we strive for. So there are ways already that we are incorporating AI within our company, and we see this really as just a stepping stone into the future. When I look at propane as a whole, because you also mentioned where do I see the future of propane? What I see for our industry is continuing to see this reliable, versatile, clean, and efficient energy take form. The more that individuals start to learn about the power of this energy source, the more they will understand how it is such a critical element of our energy strategy within the United States, and how energy choice is something that needs to prevail in order for us as a country to continue to be a dominant nation.
That's very insightful, and I hope gives our listeners a lot to think about. So
yes, I'm sorry, please.
Please go ahead.
And as we continue to educate, that is going to be very important. When we look at energy sources as a whole, oftentimes there isn't a ton of knowledge about our energy source. So for the listeners that are listening in, I do ask that you do some research, do some Googling, and learn more about these wonderful ways in which our energy source has been this unsung hero in many different scenarios.
I couldn't agree more. And it certainly has opened my eyes, because really in the public forum, when we were talking about the future of energy, propane typically kind of gets pushed off to the sidelines. But I've now learned so much from you about how it could really be integral to a future strategy and solution for the long term.
Yes, and oftentimes we don't always realize how propane intertwines with other systems like solar, geothermal, even the backup power for the electric grid. So being part of that multi-prong energy landscape is really critical to the fabric of the energy system as well.
Well, thank you for educating us today and sharing your thoughts and your perspectives. Do you want to give our listeners some information about where they can learn more about Paraco?
Absolutely. So for more information on Paraco, we'd love for you to visit our website, which is www.paracogas.com. In addition, for other resources on propane, I would recommend you research PERC, the Propane Educational Research Council, for more information.
Excellent resources. Well, thank you, Christina. It has been my absolute pleasure talking to you today. Before I let you go, though, I do have one final question for you.
I'm ready for it. Let's go.
And this is a question I didn't prompt you for, I didn't prepare you for, but it's our traditional final question on the Think Factory podcast, which is, what keeps you up at night?
Oh my goodness. What keeps me up at night? Well, it often depends on the day, the month, or the year. But I would say what keeps me up at night is making sure that I am showing up as much in my family life as I am in my work life.
So true. So true. I can really relate to that myself. Well, thank you again, Christina, for being with us today. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. This has been Alka Bahal on behalf of the Think Factory's Workplace podcast, signing off. Until next time.